Welcome to your Next Stop podcast. Welcome back to your Next Stop. This is Juliette Hahn, and I am here with Jonathan Levin. How are you?
I'm doing good. What about yourself? Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm excited for this. I always start my podcast with talking about how I love sharing people's stories. Stories connect us, and I really love how we connect with different people from our worlds will, reach out to me and say, I have someone for you. I think you're going to really enjoy it. And so Vanessa from Greatly said, I would really love for you to meet Jonathan. I think you guys would hit it off for many different reasons, but there's so many different things that, now that we've been following each other a little bit on social media, the quotes that you put out there, I'm like, yes. Like, so I just love that she put us connected. But so just to give you a little background on Jonathan, he is a pro footballer, a midfielder, and his IG is Jona Levin, and that's Levin 7. He is with the Phoenix Rising right now. And he, as I said, is a midfielder, but you were in Mexico City, correct? And so I want to kind of, I want to take people back a little bit of your background, and then we'll get into the story, of why we connected and why you're on your next stop. So if you can give us a little background of where you grew up and some history.
So, I grew up in Mexico City, and I was the kid that was always with the long hair, hat bag, and my ball, always going to like recess and to school. And I've always wanted to be like a soccer player. So I decided to have a very serious talk with my family and said, hey, this is the path that I want to go. And we sat down and we decided that, okay, they're going to support me. They're going to help me pursue my dream. So I went and did a trial at IMG Academies in Florida, Sarasota, and I did a trial in Pachuca in Mexico City, and I ended up staying in both, but I decided to go that my closest route to go and achieve my dream was going to go with the professional team. So I left home since I was 13, 14 years old. And I've been playing soccer ever since. I made my debut in first division like 18 years old. And I've played for Pachuca, Puebla, Jaguares, Veracruz. Then made the jump to the US like 6 years ago here. And I've been here ever since.
I love that. Now, okay. So, now that we've been following each other for a little while, and you might not know this, but my oldest son is a soccer player, footballer. And he is super passionate about it. He injured himself. He fractured both sides of his pelvis his sophomore and junior year. And so it really set him back, but he has worked so hard. And it's always been something that it's what he's good at. It's his passion. He loves it so much, always with the ball. Like you said, it was one of those things that we could see from an early age that he was successful. That's where he got a lot of his confidence. He's going next, in a month. I won't talk about that because that's not about me getting emotional. But he's going to university, D2 to play soccer. And
that's amazing.
That's kind of right when Vanessa connected us. It was like when we were really almost in that journey of like him committing, getting, recruited. And so it was really interesting because I was like, okay, I love this. I have around me, it's one of those things is I do a lot of stuff with the NFL. That's when Vanessa and I connected with stories. Yeah. And then my dyslexic podcast is with an NHL. And we always laugh because just sports is, to me, it's so important. I played 2 sports at university. And I think there's such a background when you meet people that have that team aspect, but also have that passion of working hard. Yeah. There's just something, there's like this understanding that's a little different than someone else you would meet. So if you can kind of take us through, like, okay, you decided you wanted to do this. Your parents, were like, okay, we're going to support us. But what do you think gave you that drive? Like, where was it that like, no, this is what I want to do and I'm not going to stop until I succeed? If you can kind of take us through like where you think you got that grit a little bit or that work ethic from.
Obviously everything starts with my dad. My dad always have pushed that factor of discipline and working so hard, and believing in myself. But also it's not talked about it enough until the person is already having like a different type of career or already like retired and stuff. But that feeling of not feeling good enough, you know, like whenever throughout your whole life you rejected, you're told that you're not good enough, you just feel like always in the outside. And I wanted to prove absolutely everybody wrong and myself that I was able to do it. And I can tell you, like, honestly, you know, up until this day, like, it's the same drive that sometimes you just don't feel like you're good enough, you know, and because that's that insecurity, and that's the thing that's bred so hard in your heart, that you just have that grit and that hard work that started my journey, you know, obviously because I love the game, and it's like every kid wants to be a professional athlete, right? But that whenever you go through the lows and the highs, and it's like, wow, is this worth it, you know, like, and you come from crying, and then you don't play, and you don't perform good or whatever, you know, and it's like, okay, like, that is the little fire that just gets ignites so much. It's like, there is no way, like, there is no way.
Well, and it's interesting because now having, you know, I have 3 kids, and they're all very, very athletic. And now seeing people in different worlds, you know, families with different kids and different ages. When you see those kids on the field, you're like, okay, that kid's going to be really good. And you could see that kind of in your head, the path that could happen, right?
Yes.
And I think one of the things that you just mentioned, I think is really important, because as I've now gotten to the age that I am and the experience that I've had, there's so much about mindset that is sometimes even more important than the actual athleticism. And I want you to talk on that a little bit.
No, yeah, like 100% right. You know, like when I went through like the academy rounds, I was never the most talented player, you know, and I always saw people like, wow, like if I could have 5% of their skill, that would be like, wow. But I've seen so many players that are great quality, skillful, talented players never make it. And it's all about mindset and how you work with your mind and how hard you work on yourself on being better. You know, like I've seen kids or parents that they push so much, but at the end of the day, it's the mind is a muscle. Like my dad always say, like, you work so hard on your physique and like your athleticism and your training, but if you're not feeding the mind, you're not gonna reach your full potential. So I think nowadays where we've seen cases in Olympic athletes that have committed suicide, or just people that have gone through depression or severe anxiety and stuff like that, you know, like just help them manage those emotions, that it's okay to talk about it, and to talk about like as hard as you work in the field, as far as you're going to work on your mind, that's going to make you so much more stronger, and it's going to make you be able to take more and be able to fight harder.
And I mean, it's so true. And also as you said, bringing up the mental toughness and the mind, but also you can see, right, as you said, you can see kids that are so talented, but they don't have that mindset, right? When it's really like, okay, the coach is hard on them, or they go through something, you could see it broke them. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. Or sometimes parents wanted a little bit more than the kid, right? The kids put the work, and the parent can see, oh my God, this kid has such talent, but that is not the kid's passion. And it is nowadays, I mean, when I played, it was pretty intense, you know, but it is not like it is now. I mean, there's times where I'm sitting on the sideline like, oh man, these parents are absolutely off their rocker. And it will be interesting getting into conversations with them like, oh, did you guys play? And it's always like, no. And then you kind of are like, okay, I see. They had an injury. They didn't make it to where they wanted. So now they're putting it on their, on their children. And that pressure sometimes is a little too much. It's a little too much for a child that, is just trying to process, okay, I want to do this. But there is that 1% that can kind of, even through whatever they've been through, they can kind of rise because of, right, that mental toughness.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that you just said that's so important is that it's being talked about more and more now about kind of like the depression, the anxiety and all that things, because in professional athlete, in the professional sports world, it is one of those things. There's going to be a day that you don't play, right? It's
Yeah.
just inedible. Like it is inedible, and it is not it talked about enough. One of the reasons why I got into the stuff with the NFL, because when I was talking to Cynthia Zordich, I was like, you know what? I can't even think about until I was able to bring my mind into it and thinking about obviously the interviews I do a lot are usually with the spouse, but being able to have the spouse be able to help and support their loved one, their professional athlete husband, that,
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's gone, it's done. And it's like, that is going to mess with the strongest minded person. It doesn't matter. And it needs to be talked about more. And it needs to be, okay, these are the feelings, or I've had a bad day. This is how I'm feeling. Because you're right. There's been so much, suicides and the rise of all of it because people are just not being able to handle it. So if you can kind of take us through, like, what you've been doing around that and being able to talk about mental health and the importance of it.
Of course. I think you hit the nail pretty big because, like, I've dealt with my own issues with mental health, but at the end of the day, it's a topic or it's a situation where because we are a product, you can say, and we are expected to be this top performer day in and day out and perform at our best in every single weekend, and people have so much money riding on this type of thing, like that they're not going to want to hire or put their effort or money or somebody that maybe broken, what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, a lot of athletes start paying the bill like whenever they're about to retire or in their own personal life or stuff like that, and it's just about giving the help that we're all human, you know what I mean? We just have different demanding jobs, and this job is what makes you identify with yourself, it's what it becomes you. It's like without it, like, and I can tell from experience, like whenever I've been in problems where I have issues where it's been hard to get team or just things are not going good, you feel like you have no value as a human being because that is just who you've been all your life and what you've put your effort, your time, your sweat, your tears, the blood, like absolutely everything. So I think holding space for athletes in this type of scenario, I think it would help a lot, and it would just help a lot of families and at the same time a lot of human beings to deal with that side of the second effects that brings it with it. There's a very big professional athlete that I don't know if you know a lot about soccer, but his name is Thierry Henry. He played for France national team. He played for Arsenal so many times. He played for Barcelona. He's like a legend. He retired, and then the first time he opened up, he said, I was depressed my whole career, and I was working to make my dad proud because he made me feel like I was never good enough. And I was depressed every single game. And it's something that you don't see because he makes the money, he wins games, he wins championships, he does all these things, and people don't see that human side of the soccer player. And it affects absolutely everything around it. So holding space and just obviously everybody having the interest of like, okay, what am I feeling? Because at the beginning, when like I've dealt with severe anxiety, right? And at the beginning, it's like I thought it was just like a normal feeling. I just don't understand what is it or what it is until like I had a very bad injury, and then I started talking to a therapist, and then I seeked help from my family, and I had situations in my life where it's like, okay, things are not going right. Like, why? And you start digging deep, and you just start like getting tools to identify, and it's going to give you more peace in your personal life and also make you enjoy more the game, because it's so high the stakes and so high the pressure that it comes a point where you're just like not enjoying it anymore if you're not 100% here. So
Right.
it becomes like not dreadful, but it's like you suffer through it instead of like, wow, I'm enjoying it, instead of like, oh my gosh, this hurts, or this, and you're in your mind all the time. So I think it's something that it needs to be talked about, and it's a lot of things where a lot of teammates, ex-teammates, have come to me, they talk to me, and they open up, and you'll be surprised how many people and how many athletes feel that way, that they feel like they cannot open up, or they feel alone, or they just don't understand what's going on with them.
Hmm. Well, and I think the important thing is you said like holding space and making it okay. And, I'm obviously a woman, but having, men in sports, it's like you guys are supposed to be tough, right? You're supposed to be able to endure everything. That's just like society, how we always, have always done. I remember when the boys were little, because I have two boys and then my daughter. And,
Yeah.
my boys were, and at most people that I talk to, their boys are more sensitive than their girls when they're young. They're so
Yeah.
sensitive. And it's like society is like, if you fall, don't cry, don't do this and don't do that.
Yeah.
And I remember working so hard to be like, it is okay. You need to talk about it. I talk about this on all my podcasts. I talk about this often, is you can't stuff. If you have emotions and you stuff them, they're going to come out somewhere. I mean, it's going to come
Yeah.
out. It can come out in 10 years. It could come out the next day. It could come out in 20 years,
Like
but
a
it's going
ticking
to,
bomb.
100%. And it's not going to be good. There's nothing that's going to be good. You're going to feel worse. And sometimes people don't even realize they're stuffing. They kind of like push it back. It's not like that they are waking up every day with anxiety, like, oh my God, I'm stuffing this thing that happened. But there's other people that sometimes forget about it, or they're just like, okay, this is, as you said, this is just normal. I'm just living with it. I should be feeling better. I should be happy because I'm living a dream that so many people would want to do, but making it okay to say, no, I'm not okay. Because if you think about a professional athlete, this is your livelihood, right? The money, all of these different things, not letting people down, having a team, having a coach. There's going to be, days and the number of athletes that I've talked to, a lot of them say like, I never really felt like I made it. I always, you have to make sure that I play the best, because if you don't, someone's going to take your position. You can never actually relax.
Never.
ever,
Like,
ever
never.
relax, ever. Right. And if you just think that and say it, like, that makes me anxious, right? That makes me be like, oh my God. Like, you have to like make sure like the day, everything that you're eating right, you're doing everything all the time. And I see this with my son.
Yeah.
And he is a routine kid. He knew that this is what he wanted to do. And, now going off to university where he has a month and he's, built himself back. He doesn't eat sugar. He doesn't do this. I mean, he is the most, and he's 18. I think it's fascinating because when I was 18, even though I played college sports, I was not as disciplined as he was.
Yeah.
But I can feel there's times where it's like, I'm like, honey, just breathe. Right? Just breathe, because there's the things that, and I want you to kind of take us through a little bit of some of the, maybe the practices that you do that have helped you be able to kind of, and again, as you said, like there's never a day that you're like, oh yeah, okay, I got this, because you never know. But when you're feeling really, really anxious, or you feel like you're spinning, what are some things that you have learned through your journey that have really helped you?
So yeah, like talking on that point, that competitiveness inside of you is like, I want more, like you're only as good as the last game you played. You know what I mean? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how well you did last season. That season doesn't matter anymore. And like you said, you have somebody pushing behind you that's want to take your spot. There's no friends here. There's no friendships. At the end of the day, it's between you and me. I'm going to pick myself every time, regardless if I go to dinner with you and I know your family, and I don't know, like a case play to get, like, it's me against you. And 10 out of 10, I'm going to go 100%. That's me, regardless if you're going to play or not. And that's it. And the practices and the tools that I've learned, it took me a while to like first can put a name on it and identify what I was actually feeling, because I was the kind of kid that it was just normal. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you have to suck it up this. You have to like let this step on you. You have to like make yourself small. Or you have to like go through these hoops or let people like mistreat you in some ways to keep advancing or to keep being in the team or to do this or to do that. And you just you just like start doing like this, you know what I mean? And that is not okay. And then one day, maybe like you said, you don't realize right now, but one day it's gonna explode. And for me, like talking to my family, like having that support where I've been able to, and it took a long time, you know, like I was not always very forthcoming or open about my feelings with my family and stuff like that until like they made me feel like, and they hold a safe space for me, no judgment, no nothing, regardless of what it is and what it's not. And always talking to a professional, like somebody that can hold space, where has no clue who you are, has no sway, and you play, you know, they don't care. And always also like journaling helps a lot, you know, positive affirmations, and meditating, you know, like that has helped me a lot, where it just helps you deal with those intrusive thoughts in your mind and just let it through, you know, like sometimes we get so stuck up in situations, ideas, or feelings that, like you said, you don't want to feel them, but if you don't feel them, you're not dealing with them, and they're just getting stored. So if you like literally feel it, cry, get angry, whatever it is, then you just like let it go through your body and let it go through your mind, you deal with it. But if not, you just like, it's one on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, and then you see you have a skyrise of 50 feelings, and then how are you going to deal with 50 different type of feelings, you know?
Yeah, no, it's so true. And it's the holding the space, it's acknowledging it. But it's so interesting because, you know, as many interviews that I've done, 500 more, you know, what it is. And everyone comes back to the journaling or the meditation or different things. And there's times in our lives where, you know, maybe we're like, no, I don't want to do that, right? We fight it because we're like, I don't want to do that. It doesn't work for me. I've been in times in my life, and I've recently in the last year have found yoga, which in the past when I used to do yoga, I'm like I love heavy lifting and doing things hard and going fast, and I don't like to slow down. But there's a lot of times I didn't like to slow down because I didn't feel like dealing with whatever was there to deal with. And so it is like, you know, and I always would be like, I have to move to meditate. And I really do. I do my best thinking when I'm moving. So like walking really helps me. But I think when you're talking about all the different tools that you picked up, one of the things that I like to kind of discuss with people is finding what works for you, not poo-poo, right? And not poo-pooing what other people say.
No.
Time and time again, we know these things work.
Yeah.
There's research. It works. So when someone's listening to this and they might be like, yeah, but I don't feel like doing that. You have to take those little steps to start doing things that will make you feel good. So one of the things like with meditating, I remember when I like the first time someone was like, meditate. And I like, you know, got the app, I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm like thinking of the laundry. I'm thinking all these different things. And I'm, you know, sitting, and I remember like, you know, like just don't think of anything. And I would ask people, I'm like, okay, and my brain never shuts off. I mean, that's my ADD. But
mine, right, the same.
Ever. I always have a thought in my mind. And sometimes it's just like, oh, the sky looks so nice. Or, oh, look at that bird. Or, oh, look at the bunny that just ran across the street. It is never blank. I mean, it doesn't have to be like complex things, but it is not blank. So I had to do a lot of work to find. And then like I had someone one time explain to me, it's not that you have to think nothing, because then I was like, okay, when I'm thinking nothing, I'm actually saying to myself, think nothing, think nothing.
You're doing something. Yes.
And I'm like, I'm still thinking, this sucks. I hate this, right? I was like, I mean, it could have been like a very funny little clip of watching me try to do this meditation because I'm like, this is not working. However, what someone said to me that was really, really helpful is like, okay, if you're in yoga or if you're somewhere where you're trying to meditate, thinking of your breathing, like, so like actually focus and be like, okay, breathe in, 1, 2, 3, you know, breathe out. They're like, you're clearing your mind. And I was like, oh, I literally was thinking that you had to think nothing. And that's like impossible for me, right? It's impossible. Yeah. So can you, like, for someone that's maybe sitting here listening to this going, okay, I've heard of all these things, right? I don't like to journal. I do voice journaling because of my dyslexia and I can't spell anything and it frustrates me more to write. And then I get like pissed off. So it's like easier. So I do voice journaling, but I still am getting out my emotions. I do podcasting. It's actually crazy, but that is so therapeutic for me because I can talk about things. I mean, that's one of the things that is like, a therapeutic. So I have found things that are a little different, but it's still the same concept, right? It's 100%. Still the same it's the same result at the end.
Yeah.
So if someone's like listening, were there times in your life that like you were able to do it and was like, okay, this is great? Or where were the bumps that you had to kind of adjust yourself?
So I've had the same, like I cannot sit still and read a book.
Right.
Because I read a page and then I forget like this, and I need to hear it to actually retain it, right? It's like to say it like this with journaling. Like my therapist told me, whenever you tape record yourself or you do a video one, you can see actually the progress in your voice, in your facial expressions, in everything. And in meditation, the same, like at the beginning I was like, oh my gosh, like, come on, like seriously, like, no. And I got into a point in my life where I was just so desperate for help and so desperate to, like, if you want some different results, you need to be willing to do different things. And what I learned with the meditation is like, yeah, you control the breathing, but it's like with everything. If you just hold the thought or hold the feeling, you're not letting it pass. So it's like, if something comes here, you need to just think it's fine. You just let it go through and you just get better at it. You know what I mean? And it's about all consistency. Maybe there are days that you're able to give 60 and that is your 100. And maybe there are days that you're able to give 10 and that is your 100. But not every day you're not like my dad always used to say, you're not the best player if you score 2 goals, and you're not the worst player if you make a mistake. It's about being able to deal with the highs and the lows and try to be as consistent as possible, and always try to have grace and love for yourself. Like it's like this, like I'm so hard on myself and I deal with so much. I have a lot of trouble with self-love, but whenever it comes to other people, I can hold space and I can listen to them and I can give them the best possible advice. When it comes to myself, I am the hardest, meanest critics of all. So it's about, what would you say to somebody else that why you're not telling it to yourself? So it's about managing. If today I'm able to give 40, then give the 40. You don't have to give 100. Maybe today your 100 is 40. And just absolutely be patient and graceful with yourself and try to find what works for you. Like, it's about like trying different things. It's like, okay, what kind of ice cream do you like? Like, oh, I don't like vanilla, but I love chocolate mint. How'd you know that? Because you tried something. And it's about actually like trying and being humble enough to, like, I need help, or I need an outlet. And I'm open to identify things. Or why is it too hard for me to, like, go inside myself whenever I'm meditating? Maybe I don't feel safe with my own thoughts. Maybe I'm avoiding something, like maybe like I don't want to acknowledge something that is very deep inside and it's triggering, So it's about actually being willing to put in, it's hard work, It's not like, oh, I'm going to go and it's easier to go have a workout in a hot yoga class that you suffer through it than do like a mental thing like this, So it's just about trying different things and figuring out what works for you and doing with consistency.
I love that. So I want to pose this because this is something that I've talked about often on things. So I think that everyone is built different, right? I mean, there could be, and whether you believe in like astrology or times of like, your birth order or all these different things, where you grew up, what your parents, traumas were, all of these different things. But I do believe there are people that are born with more like innate confidence or more innate self-love.
Yes.
And then they maybe have like a parental match. And so that like that parent really lifts them up as well. Or they have like a,
100%.
A community or an environment.
Yeah.
So, because I would love to talk about the fact that you're so hard on yourself. Like, where do you think you were born hard on yourself? Or do you think that as you kind of, because this is something that's interesting is like when you think of the kid that is like that safe little kid, when you look at little kids and you're like, oh my God, they have no care in the world. There's no racism. There's no anxiety. There's nothing, right? It's like just this pure joy of happiness when a child has, even just sometimes doesn't have to have the best life. It's just they're safe and they're loved and they're fed, right? And it sometimes can be
Yes.
minimum, it doesn't matter. But you see that innocence, and then you kind of see when that child, like when the innocence starts breaking, right? And you can see that evolution, and it's heartbreaking sometimes, it's fascinating sometimes if it's not too harsh, but you could see these things. As a parent, I remember, I think when all three of my kids, I remember like when they realized, oh wait, mom is a real person, a human, like that makes mistakes. And it was like, before I was
Yes.
like this God that could do no wrong. And it was like, oh, they see that I am not perfect and I'm far from perfect. But they're each kid and each human kind of evolves in a different way with that. And some, again, it's the environment, some it's just who they were. But what do you think, something is more innately kind of born that way and then the environment helps it? Or do you think it is more just the outer, like the kind of the environment that kind of puts that pressure on people? And so like, where do you think your hardness on yourself kind of stems from?
That's a very interesting question. And I love that because I feel like it comes from the type of information and environment you surround yourself with. Yes, a lot is parents and family, and a lot is the type of kids in school or outside school you surround yourself with. I, my family's been, it's very like old school cookie cutter like this, right? Like my family hates long hair. They hate long hair on me. Even to this day, every time I see them, so when are you gonna cut your hair? That's too long. Like every time. And it was an issue with my mom, with my dad, so long. And they were very disciplined on myself. I was told no a lot of times and a lot of fun things that I wanted to do. And they were like, very, we want the best for you. And as a kid, you're like, oh my gosh, is this super sturdy, disciplined parent that is telling you no to everything, and you just get like, you throw a fit, you get mad, you get frustrated, and then when the years start like passing through, you're like, wow, I am so thankful that my family acted that way and told me no so many times. But the to responding your question is, I've been rejected so many times in my personal life and in my professional life, right? And whenever you are being told you're not good enough, or he's better, or no thank you, or you're on the bench, or this and that, and you can see that, yes, there are players that 100% they're more talented than me, but there's something that I bring to the table that nobody else will. I will run my ass to death on the field for anybody, like for anybody, and like I said, whenever you feel like you're not good enough, like you just want to be better and better, and you realize that in some stages of your life, whenever you're like going through the academy ranks, you're competing against somebody else, right? And then it comes a point when you realize that now you have to compete against you from yesterday. And it just becomes harder and harder, because the peak just gets steeper and steeper and steeper. The competition is insane. So wanting to become a soccer player, wanting to reach that professional environment, I had to sacrifice so many things. I had to hurt so many times that we don't want you, you're not good enough. We're looking for something different, or we would have you, and then you work so hard, and then they put the friend of the friend, or you just feel so out of the circle and so rejected. And it's something that in sports, 60% is rejection, and it's how well you manage going from rejection to rejection. Okay. Like if you think that it's gonna be all sunshine and rainbows, 90% of the time, that is completely wrong. Mm-hmm. But my dad always picked me up whenever I was on my lows, my mom, my family, like they never let me fall, like they would always like cheer me on. They would like push me, like whenever I was doing something wrong, they would clearly like tell me like, hey, you're doing wrong, this. But whenever I was like doing good and stuff, they would like push me up. So I think that's one of the things that I really struggle in to this day, you know, like whenever you're like transitioning from like adolescent to young adult to like 30-year-old something, like you start seeing like, wow, I've been living my life since I was 13, 14 years old, the same, right, as I'm a 30-year-old now, you know what I mean? And it's about to manage that type of environments and still being honest with yourself and feel like, wow, I am abandoning myself in so many situations because of this, because of this, and because of this, and I have to be true to myself and speak my truth to myself, you know, like realizing, and it's like, hey, you are good enough, you know, like your value is so determined by the media, by social media, by coaches, by fans, by if you play, if you don't play, like if you don't play, you feel like you're nothing. And if you play, you feel like you're the best. So it's about having a balance and actually knowing your worth, that you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for the coach. You're not doing it for anybody, for your family. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you play, if you don't play, that does not determine the value of a human being that you are. And that the sad truth is that so many of us feel that way sometimes. And it's hard to not feel that way, that it's personal. It's like, wow, I've put so much effort and so much sacrifice to not play. And maybe you don't feel like you're not good enough because the other guy is playing. So what do I need to do? Work harder than him. And that feeling of not feeling good enough every week and day in and day out, it's filled with like that fuel of like, I'm not going to let that guy run harder than me. It's like, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be first one in, last one out. In the runs, I'm going to be always first. If somebody's trying to beat me, I'm not going to let him beat me. It's that competitive side inside that pushes you, you know, and maybe not for a lot, but for another bunch is that not feeling good enough. So it's about knowing that self-love, that it doesn't matter you play, you don't play, like if you have somebody to go home at night or not, if the media talk trash about you, like you have to know your worth as a human being, that you're worthy of love and you're worthy of good things regardless if you play or not, because you're living the dream that so many people want and are working, and you're one day you ask for that dream and we don't realize that, wow, like I have it, you know what I mean? It's like whenever you buy a car, oh, I have a Volkswagen, right? Let's say now I want a BMW or Mercedes. Whenever you have a BMW or Mercedes, you want something better, and you don't realize that what you have is what you once wanted. So it's about actually thinking that, okay, where am I standing? Being so grateful with life and waking up a day to do what you love. I've seen so many people stay on the path of bad choices and bad decisions and say, I should have done this, or what ifs, and this. It's like, no. I'm waking up every day to do what I love. And it's somebody that millions of people want. So I need to treat it with respect, with love, and have fun. Like, it's a game. And sometimes we lose that part because we get paid, we get so much attention or fame or media or whatever. And we need to remember that whenever we go out, we need to have fun. So that's like a part of me that I've struggled, you know, and I can tell you the same thing today. Like, there are times where I go out of the game, it's like, I felt like I did good, but I feel like I could have done better. And my opinion of myself is so much different than somebody else, you know what I mean? Because you're your worst critic. But it's about, you need to be the best supporter and your best cheerleader instead of your worst critic.
Yes, no.
Obviously, not be delusional, you know? But yes.
Right. No, it's very true. And again, it's a very interesting, you know, the humans are so complex. I mean, we really are complex people. And when you have different levels of, just as you said, like, you know, whatever your career is, and everyone has a career, everyone has stress and all these different things, but it's the tools and how you handle them. But when you're in the spotlight, when you're out there and you're doing something, as you said, since you were 13, you know, it's been a dream of yours. Have you ever, and this don't think it's a silly question, but it might be a silly question, and not silly meaning like, because I think all questions are good, but it might seem simple, but I'm curious about this. Has there ever been a time in your life where you were like, okay, I'm done and I'm okay with that, and then you get like
No,
picked up? Like, yeah. Okay.
no. Like, I love what I do. I love what I do. And it took me a long time to be able to have a conversation with myself and say it out loud, where it's like, okay, what's going to come after soccer? Or what, like, I was like, I don't want to have that conversation. It will give me anxiety. It's like, whenever that comes, I'll cross that bridge. Like, recently, like, the past couple years have been hard, but at the end of the day, like, you just sometimes feel like your soul is tired, but like, sometimes you just keep having this fire where like, I'm not done. Like, I have so much more to give because I am so lucky to have this job. You know, like, it doesn't matter where you play, it doesn't matter Europe, here, there, like, soccer flips this fast. One day you can be playing and you can do it so bad, and then one day, oh, you're on top, you're the best player, you're in the best team, you great opportunity, great money wise, great city, just everything. So my dad always said, success, you have to go from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And a lot of people lose it and lose that spark and that light, where one failure becomes 3, those 3 become 6, and those 6 become 12, and those 12 become 20. But you don't know that in the 22 you're gonna hit the jackpot, you know. So no, like, even to this day, you know, like, I feel like, wow, like, what am I gonna do, well, like, whenever the time comes, because it's something that it's been so ingrained in me.
Yeah.
So yeah, no.
No, so to follow up on that, I mean, one of the things that I think is interesting, and it's same as being an entrepreneur. It's like, okay, the times are hard. It's up and downs, and a lot of people quit before it's actually their time. And I mean, that's
100%.
something I talk about all the time. You're going to have those ups and downs, and being an entrepreneur, like, there's a day that, as you said, it could be the best day. You had the best wind, you got the best client, and the next day and not even the next day, the next hour, the next 2 minutes, it could be the worst. And then you're like, oh my God. And it's how you manage them. And I'm going to equate this to a conversation I had with a woman that was a very, very successful entrepreneur, and she's 4 kids, did not plan on being an entrepreneur, created a product that actually ended up just taking off, and like Pottery Barn wanted it like right when she created it, and was like, oh my gosh, yeah, really, really cool. But again, had no, this is not what she thought she was going to be doing. And I said to her, how do you handle the ups and downs? Because that's one of the things, and it was at a time in my career that there was a lot of ups and downs, and I loved the ups, but the downs, I was like, oh, and I am an emotional person. So like, when I'm happy, I'm happy. When I'm sad, I'm sad. Like, you know what it get. But I was like, I want to be able to manage this a little bit. I am also very all or nothing. So I also realistically knew, okay, maybe I can change it a slight bit, but I know my personality and I know I'm all or nothing. So I just have to ride it, right? I need to ride both. And what she said was that you can't live in the ups too long, and you can't live in the lows too long. You can sit with it for a moment, but then you have to turn it back off and get back to work. And I think that's very similar in, a professional athlete. It's the same. You can't sit in those highs. You just have to do your job and do it the best every day. You can't relax. You can't get overzealous, right? You have to try to stay in that middle part. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because that to me is very difficult.
Oh my gosh, no. Like, even for me, like, like, it's something that I've struggled in the past, where you make a mistake, a mistake that, wow, it costs you the game, or a mistake on training because you want to impress the coach because your job is on the line, and this and that, and it's like, man, like, I messed it up, and it just reminisce in your head, and then it's like a quicksand. The more you try to get out, the more you sink. So it's actually like not being afraid of making mistakes. That's the one skill, or what's the one, how could you say it, thing that all successful people, entrepreneurs, athletes, they have no fear of keep trying it. Because like, okay, I messed up, I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep asking the ball. And you can see, like, in a game or something, like, whenever you make 1, 2, 3 mistakes, he's not gonna ask for the ball anymore. You know, like their confidence, you're like,
Yep.
and it's like, no, like you see in the interviews for big coaches, and they say about great players, like either from the academy or already like selling professional stages, like they are fearless of making a mistake. You make a mistake, you turn around. It's about making a mistake, from mistake to get it better, and it becomes muscle memory.
Yep.
And again, all comes from self-love and actually not being afraid of making mistakes. Whenever you do that, you tap into something that nobody else can take away from you. Because then you're 100% open to express yourself, because it's like an art, you know, like professional sports is like, okay, like being a quarterback or playing in NHL or being a running back or being a soccer player, like they all have their things of how you are expressing yourself through your craft. But whenever you're afraid of making a mistake, you're not allowing yourself to tap into your like 100% potential. So, and it's crazy. Like once you see it, it's like a drug. It's like whenever you go to the gym, you expect to be all shredded and like ripped like in 2 weeks. No, but once you start going 2-3 months, like wow, it becomes an addiction, and you get better at it, and you get so much more comfortable with making mistakes.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And taking it back to like even youth sports, even seeing, and I'm thinking of like my middle son that plays basketball, and watching players on his team when they have like a couple mistakes, and you could just see their game goes in the shitter. I mean, it's done. And I know, and it's interesting seeing at the ages that it happens. And one of the things about my middle child is that when he makes mistakes, he actually works harder. And that's something that is just innate in him. And it's fascinating because you see these things in, as you say, in players as in people. One of the things that I think you brought up that's really important, and I had a really interesting conversation with a rookie NFL player. And he wasn't on a team yet. He actually got injured and then never, it was like he played one game and then was out. And, it was a really interesting conversation, but he kept, people kept saying to him, okay, well, if you don't make it, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And he was like, if I think about what I'm going to do, I'm not going to actually play well. I can't think about what I'm going to do. I need to be in the moment. And I think that is something that's really important, because I think there's such a narrative. I know what I do. There's such a narrative about making sure players have a plan afterwards. So then when they leave the league, it's not like just full on, depression, even though there's going to be moments. But it brings a really good point of there's some personalities and some people that if they think about what's next, it's going to actually derail them. And so they can't do it. And so you brought that up. So what are like some advice for people that are going, either they want to be a professional athlete or they're like ready to dive into this, and it's like people keep telling them, well, you got to think about it. Like, how do you mentally kind of prepare? And you said you're like, I'm not even thinking of it. Like, but how do you do that?
It's so funny because a long time ago when I started playing, like a really good seasoned player that I started playing with, he was like, if you don't think that you can beat me, and you were like, okay, what happened if no. Your mind is already programmed. That like little inch, you already give it away.
Yep.
You already give it away. Like if it doesn't happen, then you cross that bridge when it comes. Obviously, there are different situations with everybody's life and different this and that. But at the end of the day, if you manifest and you put absolutely everything into plan A, if it doesn't work out or if it happens or whatever it is, you figure it out as you go. But absolutely everything, I've put my 100% into my career. Like, yes, I've gone to college and I have a degree and I've submerged into like the entrepreneurship world and all that stuff. But it's a topic that was so hard for me. Like, whenever my family tried to talk to me about it, it's like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, no, like you will give me anxiety. Like, it's not like whenever it comes, because it's like you mourn a part of yourself that has to die. It's been there for 20 plus years or whatever, and the love of your life is gonna disappear from one day to another. You're gonna be like, where it went? You got to wake up and play with the ball and get that like jitterness and get that like adrenaline pump and that camaraderie or friendships with the teammates and going to the training grounds and going to the games and to the stadiums and all this stuff. And one day to another, just it's not there. It's who you've been all your life. So it's hard, but you have to know that if you want to succeed and you want to make it in such a high demanding sport or any type of business, you need to give your 150%. Like, it doesn't matter what you have going on, like outside, whatever, like you have to be willing to absolutely risk it all. You have to be willing to risk lose sight of shore to actually get the biscuit. You know what I mean? And again, for me, sometimes it's hard because like it's like a snowball. So it's like, okay, now who's Jonathan gonna be without soccer? Who like, and up until today, I still don't know yet. It's a hard conversation where I'm like day in and day out trying to like, okay, I'm gonna be okay with waking up like that. Like there are times where there was a season where I was without a team for a couple of months and I hit a really bad depression, and it was so hard to wake up in the mornings and go to training, because it's very easy whenever you have somebody clapping for you and telling you what to do and having like a routine and having like endeavors. But whenever nobody's watching, that is where it is the hardest part. So you have to surround yourself with the right type of people that are going to help you cross that bridge when it comes, and make you feel safe and make you feel that you're not going to be alone. Because people don't realize that these can break life. Humans don't want to live anymore because of this, and they don't realize that people that have just regular jobs, they can do it their whole lives, and then they're retired. And then whenever we retired, we are a completely different person at 37, 40. Like you feel like you're not good enough for absolutely anything but this. So you have to learn new stuff, go prepare yourself with something else, and figure out what you like and what you don't like. So it's, again, having the right type of people around you to help you through the process.
That's a really smart thing. And, that I think is something that's really important for people to listen to, because again, I got into this because of the stories and the connection and just, like if you really think about it, and you think when someone loves something so much, and there's people that, you have businesses and careers and all that, and you love it. I mean, I love what I do, but I know I can morph into it. But when you are a professional athlete and you like just eat, sleep, live, and die for that, there's gonna be stuff, right? But if you're prepared for like, okay, when it happens, I know there's gonna be stuff. And as you said, surrounding yourself with the right people is so important, just to be there and give you space to be able to heal. Because you're right, you're a different person. It's the routines. The routines are so important. And when you're told where to be, when to wake up, what to do, what to eat, and then all of a sudden that's all taken away, it is an adjustment. So taking little steps is important. But as you said, like you can't take yourself, you're in it, and you need to stay in it. And that is also good to acknowledge and say to the people, because there are people's personalities that can. I was talking to one professional football player, and he said the season that all of a sudden he started thinking about what was next, he realized it was time. And he was like, okay, there's something in me that has changed this season. Yeah. I'm going to finish this season out, but I'm really going to think about. And it was other things that he was just curious about. And he said it was really weird because it was like, I don't want to think about this. Why am I thinking about this? This is coming out of nowhere. But it was coming up on his end, on the end of his career. And so he made the choice the next season to walk away. And he said
Yeah.
it was a really great. And then I've talked to the players, that have had an injury and they didn't have a choice, or it was like you got cut and no one ever picked you back up, and you don't know what's going to happen until it happens. And the most important thing I think that people can really listen, one of the most important things is surrounding yourself with those people and being okay to be like, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm scared.
I feel lost.
Exactly. And having that space to do it and sitting in it.
100%. I feel like, and I've encountered this with a lot of like ex-teammates of mine and stuff, that they were like, I'm tired. I have a family, I have kids, I have a wife, or I'm tired. I love what I do, but my body just cannot take it anymore. And that's fine. Like that is completely fine. Like you said, there's very different personalities, to this thing. I have that type of personality where I have to be in it 100%. Like I love what I do. And it's what I breathe every single day. And I've tried to get better every single day of my career. But the most important thing is having the right people around you, to give you advice, to hold space for you, and to say, okay, it's okay to not want it anymore. Like it's okay, because people are, you're scared. Like you lose, how can you say it? A version of yourself that is never going to exist anymore. And it's about being humble enough to, like, sometimes we talk from the ego, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, I'm not going to get that attention. I'm not going to go then. I'm not going to have that. And then it's about being okay with absolutely everything and saying, like, look, it's okay not to want it. Look, like you can let go.
Yeah. And I think also being okay with saying, I'm going to miss this part of it. I'm going to miss the fame. I'm going to miss this. And like being okay with saying it and not feeling like you're, that you're bragging or whatever. Like, I'm going to miss it. I loved this part of the game. I mean, we all have things that we love, and saying, this is what I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss that. I'm not going to miss certain parts, right? There's going to be certain parts that you're like, okay, I'm not going to miss that. But being honest and open about it all and being true to yourself is what I'm hearing from you. And I think that's such a beautiful sentiment. Really just talking about it on so many different levels.
Yeah, like I feel like whenever you can lie to people, right? You cannot lie to yourself.
Right.
You gotta you lay the head in the pillow every single night, and you can be giving interviews or telling people or acting like you don't want to give it up, but you go to bed saying like, I'm tired, like I'm done. You know what I mean? Like inside something, when it clicks, but you need to have those hard conversations with yourself, and it's like, okay, if we're gonna keep going, you need to commit 100%. There's no half-ass it. There's no 20, like, no. You commit every single day. If you don't want to do it, that is okay too, and my family has tried to have those type of talks with me. It's like, hey, I'm not ready. Like, I'm not ready. I feel like I have so much. And they tell me, like, look, if we felt like you were done, we would told you. And if we feel like you still have it, So it's about having that peace, because whenever you start growing and going through your career, you play for different things. Like first, you're reaching a goal. You're so hyper-focused onto, like, making your debut or being a starting 11 or making this amount of money or getting to this team, and then I want to have fun. I want to enjoy the game, like kind of like the interest, not an interest, but the short-term goals start changing inside the game. So it's about how do you want to enjoy it? If you want to keep having it, then you go all in. If you don't, that is okay too. Like I've had people like, it's like, are you okay with this decision? Like, because I would be like terrified, like in the past 2 years or something, like 2 really good friends of mine retired. And I was like, wow, like, how do you feel like it? Like, is okay? And they were like, this is the best decision that I made. I feel like I'm doing good. Like, do I miss it? Yes, but I'm okay. And it's just about gathering information from other people and talking to people that have gone through the process of like, wow, it helps you through those hard conversations you need to have with yourself or with your family. And it's like, okay, like, why'd you make this decision? Like, why is it? Like, why you feel like you're ready? Why you feel like you're ready to stop playing, to give it up? Because, oh, I want to have more time with friends. I want to have more time with my kids. I want to have more time with my wife, whatever. Like, so you just have to, again, surround yourself with the right type of people that can guide you through any type of process you're willing to go through it. Either staying or make a decision, I want something different.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I know that I could sit and talk with you all day long, but is there anything that you kind of want to leave anyone with? What are some of the things, what are your plans? What's happening in the next couple months? What are you doing? If you can give us a little bit of that as we kind of end the show.
Sure. I keep playing. I love what I do and I'm going to keep doing it. Right now I am on this mental health tour that I'm very excited about, like to promote it and to reach and help people in that way where it's okay and people don't feel alone in that way, just to be able to talk about it and reach or just feel okay with themselves, feeling those feelings and having the right people around them. And I am developing like a product that is going to come out in the next couple of months with Saga that I'm really excited. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining Your Next Stop. And you guys, again, you can find Jonathan on Instagram, also TikTok, and on, I still call it Twitter.
X, Twitter.
Yeah. I'm of the generation where it was Twitter, so I'm calling it Twitter. But it's JONALEVIN 7. And you are with Phoenix Rising midfielder Jonathan Levin. Thank you so much for joining Your Next Stop.
Thank you.
You guys know what to do. Like, rate, review, and share. You might have listened to this episode and said, great, I love this story. You don't know who needs to hear it. You don't know who in your world needs to hear what Jonathan was literally just talking about, because there's so many things in life that literally can be exactly what he's talking about. It doesn't have to be because he's a professional athlete. It doesn't have to be because someone's an entrepreneur, but it's real life. And we need to discuss this because right now there is a mental health crisis that no one really knows what to do. And I think being open and talking is what we need to do. So share this episode. And again, thank you so much, Jonathan.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me and for the time. And I'm excited to keep watching and see where you go with the podcast and all your episodes.
Thank you.